Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I love the nurses that come and see me.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
Since I've learned about Angel Care, I would recommend them to anybody.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to our Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching. Thanks as always to the producer and editor of our series, Jeff Durall. Also with camera 2, Brandon Cooley from Eagle Community Television. We're at Albertson Hall, 3rd floor in the conference room with Dr. Chris Bennett, Professor of Biological Sciences and the President's Distinguished Scholar at Fort Hays State for 2016-17. And Dr. Bennett was honored at the presentation of the Memorial Union in the Stauffer Lounge back on April 6th, and he is our Community Connection. Well, first of all, Dr. Bennett, congratulations on the award.
Thank you very much.
What are the criteria for President's Scholars Award?
Well, the main criterion is excellence in scholarship or creative activity of some sort. One is nominated by somebody on the university campus and is then asked to fill out a portfolio in which you document teaching, service, but primarily your creative activity or scholarly activity, whichever it is that you have. In my case, I'm researching in science, and so I documented the work I've done.
And the provost is the one who actually presents the award, along with those who have been past winners who are also part of this committee of selection, right?
Well, the applicants are evaluated, and one is selected, assuming there's more than one applicant. The committee consists of the 5 previous winners, and it's chaired by the provost. And then the president of the university is the one who presents the award at that public presentation on the 6th. So.
Giants, dwarfs, and pterosaurs. Talk about your presentation. Tell us what you presented at that convocation.
Well, I was asked to make a presentation of about 20 minutes. And so I started out talking about the fact that science is a collaborative endeavor, a team sport, if you will, and illustrated this with the case of Isaac Newton, who has been quoted as saying that if I've seen further than others, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. And I detailed the possible giants upon whose shoulders he was standing. Then presented a different view from Murray Gell-Mann, a physicist who got the Nobel Prize in 1969, who said, if I've seen further than others, it's because I'm surrounded by dwarfs. And then I started talking about Pteranodon, this large flying reptile, or pterosaur. It's one of the 2 state fossils in Kansas, and I had worked on it for my dissertation. And so I talked about the giants upon whose shoulders I was standing, and then mentioned that there was a dwarf as well. Dwarfs tend to be contemporaries who don't see what you're working on and don't see what you've found. And in my case, a dwarf said that a new relatively new specimen of Pteranodon, it happens to be up in Edmonton, Alberta, that differs from the previous interpretation of Pteranodon and differs from Pteranodon sternbergi in that its upper jaw is very deep and doesn't taper much. And in fact, if you extend the taper of what's preserved, the front end is broken off. If you extend it, then the upper jaw would have gone 3 more meters out there, which is not likely to have happened. So anyway, this specimen was named as a new genus. He said it was in the genus Dawn Draco, wasn't Pteranodon. he published this paper in 2010, and it got me back working on Pteranodon to try and straighten things out. And so I've been looking at basically all the good skulls I can find, a number of new specimens that have been found since my dissertation research. And what it turns out is that you do have Pteranodon sternbergi, in which the jaws taper to points, but the upper jaw extends considerably beyond the lower jaw. And then the other species, Pteranodon sternbergi, which was thought to have upper jaws tapering to points in males, has this very deep jaw that goes out and goes who knows how far, but presumably in all specimens is broken off. We haven't seen an anterior end of one yet. So, so in the end, the project that I'm busy working on right now is going to show that both species of Pteranodon sternbergi, known from the specimen that's at the Sternberg Museum, and a number of other specimens elsewhere, and Pteranodon longiceps, both look considerably different from the way they're typically illustrated in books and so forth.
And how is this important? How does this translate to scientific research, the differences in the jaw structure, for example, and the new discoveries that are made?
Well, we're just finding out about the diversity of life and how these animals lived. Obviously, they're not going to have any important effect on our lives and so forth, but it's allowing us to understand the animals that lived in the past and how they lived and worked.
And it's another step in the evolutionary process of scientific discovery, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
You have a double major in biology and German. This was fascinating to me. How did the German play into your work?
Well, the reason when I was in high school, I didn't take foreign language classes. My father wanted me to, but I wanted to take shop classes. And so I took shop classes all through high school. And I went to college, and they had a foreign language requirement. And I said, German will be easy because it's close to English. And I started, and I became hooked. And 2 weeks into my second semester, they abolished the language requirement. But I just kept going and ended up satisfying a requirement for a German major in addition to the biology major, which was why I went there in the first place. It actually has been very useful because a lot of research on pterosaurs, not on Pteranodon, but on pterosaurs, and there are lots of different pterosaurs. It's a broad group of flying reptiles from the Mesozoic. A lot of them have been found in Germany, and so there's been a lot of publications in German, which I can thankfully read and understand, and that has been very useful. But that wasn't why I majored in German. It was just, this is interesting. So,
and a couple of masters in ecology and a doctorate in systematics and ecology. Now, systematics also blends into the scientific research, doesn't it?
Right. Systematics is the study of identification of species and trying to figure out how they're related. So in figuring out how many species of Pteranodon we have and what they're properly named, that's within the subdivision of systematics that is taxonomy. And then systematics is looking at the relationships of those species, relationships of different groups. How, for example, are pterosaurs related to crocodiles, to dinosaurs, to birds, questions like that. So,
tell me about the background that fostered this interest in learning, in discovery, Dr. Bennett.
Well, I grew up in a family that was just interested in learning things, and I grew up without a television, at least during my formative years. My family had been in Austin, Texas. We were driving to, or moving to Madison, Wisconsin, where I grew up, and my father decided not to take the television because it wouldn't fit. So there wasn't a television until I was considerably older, and so without a television, I just went and looked at things. One of my sisters took me down to the swampy areas in Madison, Wisconsin, And I looked for insect larvae and worms and tadpoles, frogs, snakes, turtle, all that sort of stuff, and just was fascinated by them. And that's what started me in my interest in biology.
Plenty of books, nature and ecology as well, all blending together.
Well, apparently, my mother didn't think that I was going to be bookish. Other members of my family were quite bookish. I apparently didn't read that much when I was young, but then later, so in later part of high school, I started reading a great deal, went off to college, read a great deal, and so forth, yes, and continue to read ever since, like crazy.
What brought you to Fort Hays State?
I had been, I got my PhD at KU, and I was staying on for a while with a non-tenure track teaching position there. It ended. I went into the computer industry for a while and was applying for academic jobs. And after 3.5, 4 years, got one. So it was just getting a job here on the faculty that brought me to Hays. So.
Well, you have biology, German, ecology, systematics. How did you land on paleontology?
Well, a lot of paleontologists will tell you the story about how when they were a little boy, they were taken down to the museum and they looked up and there was a dinosaur, and that changed their life. That's Bob Bakker's story, who's the archetypal vertebrate paleontologist who ended up being played in Jurassic Park by, what's his name? I can't think of his name. But anyway, I was out of college in Madison, Wisconsin, and was going to the bookstore looking for books to read, science to read, and I was looking around and there wasn't anything. I saw a couple books that I thought were pseudoscience. There was a book called The Hot-Blooded Dinosaurs, paperback book, and I thought it was pseudoscience too. It wasn't worth the effort. But I looked at it, maybe there is some science in here, bought it, and was fascinated, and then it had a very extensive bibliography, so I go to the technical literature and start haunting the geology museums or the geology library at University of Wisconsin and other libraries there, looking into the scientific literature, and then said, yeah, that's what I want to go.
This is it.
I had been working as a lab technician, doing research on molds and the toxins that they produce, and wasn't interested in it in terms of this is what I want to do with my life, but I became very interested in paleontology because of that book, and decided even though there may not be a whole lot of money in it, that was the direction I wanted to go. So I applied to graduate school in vertebrate paleontology, and there you go.
Dr. Bennett joined the faculty in 2004, promoted to professor in 2015, a double major in biology and German, as we mentioned. He's published more than 40 scientific papers, mostly in internationally renowned scientific journals. A reputation in the field as among the most thorough, precise, and accurate pterosaur anatomists in the world. His reconstruction of pterosaur muscle anatomy is now the worldwide standard. You got to be pretty proud of that, I would think.
I am proud of it, but to some extent it's sort of big fish in a small pond. There are not that many people who are working a large part of their research on pterosaurs. We're a rather small group, so.
But humble as well, we see. The President's Distinguished Scholar Award was issued in 1989, the highest faculty honor presented by Fort Hays State University. The committee accepts nominations until March, and the award recipient is introduced at the fall convocation. He receives a check, a certificate, and a medallion, by the way, that Jim Hinkhouse, professor of art at Fort Hays State, created, plus a plaque in the Memorial Union. Plus the fact of interacting with students on a daily basis in lab work as well as in classroom lectures. And who knows where that next scientist is coming from in Dr. Bennett's classes. Dr. Chris Bennett, professor of biological sciences and the President's Distinguished Scholar at Fort Hays State for 2016-17, our community connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
My Angel Care physical therapist taught me how to do exercises safely.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
It gives us independence in our home.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.